Now, at the risk of giving away my thoughts about talking of great disappointments, we're going to finish up with Vice, Scott.
Yes, director Adam McKay follows up The Big Short with another film attempting to mine entertainment from arguably dry subject matter, enlisting Christian Bale to again abuse his body to inhabit notoriously big Vice President Dick Cheney. We follow him across his younger days as a college dropout drunk before his wife, Amy Adams Lynn, straightens him up enough to get him into a government internship programme. There he works his way up the Nixon-era Republican Party structure under the then economic advisor Donald Rumsfeld, played here by Steve Carell in a fake nose. After all that Watergate unpleasantness, however, Rumsfeld and therefore Cheney get a bit closer to power in Ford's administration, but after Jimmy Carter's election he runs for the House of Representatives, a task made difficult by Cheney having the warmth and charisma of a bag of concrete. Still, he makes it, eventually working his way up to Secretary of Defence under Bush the Elder's presidency. However, it's his second act that's the meat and potatoes of this, as he returns as Vice President under Bush the Younger's run with a vastly expanded remit over previous VPs and a much more expanded interpretation of the sort of power that the executive branch can wield, leading in no smart to today's anti-peachy global situation. Along the way it will deal with, or, well, mention, Cheney's health and family issues, perhaps in an attempt to show us that even history's worst monsters occasionally pet a dog. Really, it's here that Vice falls on its face, but before getting to that, I should say that in general I actually rather enjoyed Vice. It's centred on a very impressive Bale performance and some really great supporting turns from the likes of Sam Rockwell, Tyler Perry and Eddie Marsan. It's funny enough to maintain interest over a perhaps shade too long 2 hours 20ish runtime, and I like it well enough to recommend it to anyone with the slightest tolerance left for politics. There seems to be altogether too much politics these days. However, and maybe I'd misread this, there's an expectation set up at the start of the film that I'd get some sort of insight into Cheney's thought process and character. The text scroll says something along the lines of few people knowing what he was responsible for. I took that as meaning we'd get something a bit deeper, but it turns out it was meant literally. This film is in essence a very well produced, flashy adaptation of a Wikipedia article, and the central "no one knows what Cheney was up to" idea is surely horse droppings. Even with only a marginal interest in US politics, there's nothing presented here that wasn't very well reported at the time, analysed subsequently many times over, certainly of his most impactful vice presidency era. For me, I suppose it provided a little bit of detail of his earlier career that I wasn't aware of, but nothing that, had I been interested in, couldn't have quickly gleaned from existing sources. I think the film knows it's weak in this regard, hence the desperate address to camera, Hail Mary that it ends on, but that's too little and too shallow, too late. There's surely more interesting elements to mine here. For example, his relationship with his openly lesbian daughter while being in a party that actively opposes gay rights, and the terrible friction that causes when another daughter tries to run for office and goes against that. This is shown, but it's very quickly passed over and not analysed in any way. I suppose it's the same problem as The Catcher Was a Spy has. There's just not a lot of reliable information to draw from in that regard, but perhaps I'd be more annoyed if it invented it, but it does rather kneecap any meaning from this film. It's an entertaining enough film, and if you live through this era in some form of seclusion from the world, or heaven forfend, are young enough not to have experienced it firsthand, you may get a lot more out of this. Even when presenting little to new information to me, I still more or less enjoyed it. I just wish that it was a bit less superficial.
Yeah, it was quite different experiences of this. I had really been looking forward to this. I didn't think a lot of The Big Short, so I suppose that tempered it somewhat, but it had such a fantastic cast. The trailers looked good. I like Sam Rockwell a lot. Christian Bale's fantastic, and it's a superb performance in this. Mm-hmm. This film put me off on the wrong foot from the title screen, basically, when it's saying Dick Cheney is really secretive and nobody knows what happened, and then we tried our fracking best. Yeah, sod off, film. I already don't like your tone. It's not big, it's not clever. It's fine if your characters are swearing, but to put it in a title card like that, I don't know. It really sat wrongly with me. I was like, yeah, sod off, you get. Was how I was feeling about Mackay at the time. And the big problem I have with the film. Well, first of all, yeah, I thought this was supposed to be a comedy, and I keep wanting to think. I'll say that I didn't laugh once. Well, no, I laughed exactly once. And I know exactly which point I laughed at. And it was a reference to members with tiny little wigs on, which I laughed at just because it was so absurd. Yeah, the big problem I have with this film is that almost without exception, every single character in this film is an absolute...
Republican?
Well, that's a synonym, yes. It's an absolute kinkanute. Almost without exception. Like, there are no good people in this. And that's a problem. I mean, you don't have to have likeable people as your central characters, and like many people are, and they're still interesting or important to learn from. I just don't feel this film is teaching me. I think it's like you say, Scott, there's nothing like here that's like, deep insight or new knowledge apart from maybe his backstory, which I didn't care about.
Yeah.
But I don't really care where this horrible evil man came from. He's a horrible evil man. Do I need to know? There's no real insight to his character. I get the feeling we're supposed to award him points for, like you said, like an evil person also maybe pet a dog, but it's like, because he, in some really messed up way, supported his daughter and loved his daughter. But yeah, you don't get points for that. That's a given. You're supposed to do that.
Yes.
You only lose points by not doing it. Yeah, I actually found... I don't know if it's her performance I didn't like, or just because the character's so likeable, but I particularly disliked Amy Adams in this. I think it probably is the character, but the character's just really deeply unlikable.
Yeah.
But with absolutely no charisma, though. At least Dick Cheney, at least as played by Christian Bale, has some sort of... There's an aura about him, which is completely lacking in Lynn Cheney. Yeah, I did not get on with this film at all. It's not awful, and it's probably worth watching. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't say that because I don't like it. I wouldn't recommend it. But some of the performances are really good, so at least enjoyed that part of it. It's weird. It takes the same sort of tack in some places as The Big Short did, which was like lots of fourth wall breaking and sort of trying to explain to the viewers what's going on. But it did it in a half-arsed way, so I either needed to do it in as much as an advanced state as The Big Short did it, or not at all. Because when they did it just every now and then, like with Naomi Watts as the newsreader, it just didn't feel like it belonged in that film at all. It felt so alien. And when you find out, basically, it's not quite a framing device, but the really messed up way that they give for Jesse Plemons being the narrator, that bothered me so much. That's horrendous. I think a really fouled up way to do it. And also about as subtle as a brick when they focus on that thing lying on the table for about what feels like 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm just massively disappointed by this film, unfortunately. Dick Cheney's a bad man. I knew that going in. I don't feel I have any insight any further into him coming out of it. He's a terrible person who ruined his country, ruined much of the world, was responsible for, at least indirectly, possibly directly, for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths. And yeah, I really want to make films with people like that.
Yeah, lot to unpack there, but I suppose if the central criticism you've got is that Cheney's an absolute dick, then we're not going to be able to get past that. You just couldn't have a film with Dick Cheney that you'd like then. Yeah, well,
see, I don't know, no, I think you could, but I'm just not quite sure what it would be, but...
I think this film has failed in at least one regard, in as much as there is no understanding of what the man's really thinking or what makes him tick. All it's really doing is presenting what he did, and I suppose there is some value in that, but not as much as I think that it thinks that it has. It's just, as I say, it's just a bunch of stuff that happened. It's like, okay, but I actually already knew most of the stuff that happened, certainly the important stuff of it, and yes. That's where it really, as I say, falls flat for me. There isn't anything more than just a list of events that happens to be told in a sort of slightly quirky way, and to a degree, it makes it hard to recommend that anyone spend 2.5 hours of their life, their one life they'll get on this earth, watching something they probably already knew what happened. If you somehow don't, then it's worth taking a look at. I do see what you're saying, and I did find it funnier than you did, but if you didn't find that bits amusing where it's trying to at least lighten things up a little bit, then yeah, there's not a lot to be gleaned from it if you're not on board with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too. It's like, again, this may not be true, so it's maybe why it's not here. But I mean, if you see a film where somebody powerful like him is manipulative, how he tries to sort of play people around him, and there's a little of that in this film, but it's more just, everybody else is already an absolute Danish King of England already. It's not like he's corrupting people or making anybody do things they don't want to do or don't realise they're doing. So everybody in his film's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Everybody. So it's there was no real in for me in this film. Again, because you can make films about terrible people. There's lots of them, and often they're very entertaining or worthy. I don't know. They just need. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Yes, I'll stop there. I didn't like it. I was really disappointed. And Christian Bale's performance was fantastic, but everything else about the film, just no. And that Jesse Plemons thing really bothered me. It was really crass.
Fair enough. A very disappointing way to end the show. Bit of a downer then.